a lot of our environment and where we kind of come from shapes kind of our values. And we hear core values, and then we hear aspirational values, and our values are typically what drive our beliefs, because that's what we think over time, and what we're conditioned to think over time, which then conditions us to believe a certain thing. And so for you and anybody listening in, how are you able to go and challenge those beliefs, right? And it's the same thing for all of us, right? It's kind of how we grew up, and even the generation, like my dad's beliefs, right? My grandparents' beliefs that instilled the values in me that I had to believe things had to be a certain way. But for you, like, what kind of opened your eyes to not be the status quo, to challenge your beliefs? And like, how do you think about that even to today, right? Because I think once you have that framework in your mind to where you always challenge beliefs, you always challenge it from now on, right? Once you unlock that, I think in your mind, it's something that stays unlocked forever. And so how is that kind of, what was that process for you that you kind of go and you always challenge kind of a belief or a way of thinking?
Yeah, I mean that's a fantastic question because you know you really have to be introspective. And I think that's something I realized at a young age. Like I was so I wasn't confident as a kid, right? Because I didn't really have relational connections because of where I grew up. I didn't have like a strong educational background, and so I felt I wasn't confident, right? And so for me to be able to realize, okay, I need to constantly be looking inward and say, what can I improve? Um, be introspective to say, look, I'm not perfect. There are many flaws. What can I do to just become incrementally better, a better version of myself each day? And that includes challenging what you believe. You know, you have to be open minded to challenge your current status, to challenge, and this is in business too. I mean, we get in such a rut sometimes because, well, that's the way things have always gone. Well, I'm marketing this way because that's what we've always done the last 10, 15 years. Well, culture is constantly shifting, technology is constantly shifting. And if we don't shift with it, then we're going to be in trouble. And so I feel like as a person and your core beliefs, but also with your core values with business and life, you always have to be introspective and look and make sure that you're shifting with the market, or you're shifting with culture, or you're shifting, and it can go from a lot of different ways. But I feel like one of the greatest traits um, in business, for sure, in real estate especially, is somebody who is continually improving and who's coachable and who wants to learn.
Yeah.
Because man, it's human nature, evolve or die, right?
Yeah. And two, is it just going through it? Because like you said, the fear of your first teacher was college professor in English 101, and the fear that you had, like, how do you overcome that? Because we all deal with it, right? We all deal with that resistance, and we know that if we just push through, however, a lot of people are paralyzed with it. But is there a framework, or is there something for you that, I mean, is it like you just trying to prove to yourself, trying to prove to others, and does that help you push through the fear, or what kind of works for you to be able to do that?
Well, I mean, honestly, my natural reaction, and I feel like a lot of people might have this same natural knee-jerk reaction, is to quit.
Yeah.
Like, when you face resistance, or when you face something that's bigger than yourself, there's a natural reaction to quit because quitting is easy, right? Um, and it's one of those things where it's like, man, I can either quit and fail myself, fail the university, fail, whatever it is, fail the company, fail my employees, or I can use this as a fuel or a fire to push my way through and to do the very best that I can. And I think that's the crossroad that I was at, at that moment was, man, I can either fail and quit and just give up. That'd be really easy. Or I can go the hard way and I can say, you know what, I'm better than this.
Yeah.
And this is going to take extra work. And you know what, maybe I'm going to have to put some of my hobbies on the side, or maybe I'm going to have to give up some things that I enjoy, like watching movies on the weekends or whatever it is. And I'm going to replace that with studying. I mean, I gave up a lot of things to study it. The amount of studying that
Sure.
I did, I gave up a lot of pleasures and things that would have been fun and events and things that I could have gone to, or parties or hangouts with friends or whatever it was. I gave those up to study. I remember one year. I'm a huge sports fan. I love sports. I love football. It's probably my favorite sport. Now I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, so there's hasn't been much to cheer for the last 20 plus years.
And I don't know if there's
Uh,
going to be much more as well.
I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough. But one year, I gave up watching the Super Bowl, which is a big deal for me. I love the Super Bowl. I love the commercials. Love the
Sure.
halftime show.
Yeah.
Whatever. I did not watch the Super Bowl um, because I had a paper that was due Monday,
Right.
and I wanted it to be better than it was. And so I spent my Sunday night recreating, recrafting, rewriting a portion of that paper. And I gave up watching the Super Bowl. And those could be small things to some people. It could be bigger things to other people. But man, how badly do you want it, right? Like, do you really want to be the best that you can be? And if you do, there are going to be some sacrifices that you have to make in order to do that. You could say the same with health, right? I mean, if you're at a point where you want to increase your health or you want to lose weight, man, there are things you're going to have to sacrifice.
Right.
You might really want, the French fries, but you're going to have to sacrifice it if you want to get to where you're wanting to go.
And I love that you said that because that's where my mind always goes. And I think coming into the year conversation with Coach Burt, and he had kind of talked about that, right? For a lot of people are going to have to make a lot of sacrifices in order to achieve and move beyond just being being average, because I believe moving into this market, average will get you crushed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think anywhere that you're trying to excel, if you're just okay with being average, to me, that's not the incremental gains. Settling. And Goggins said something about this. He said being satisfied is the cousin of complacency.
Mm.
And complacency is not the incremental gains. Complacency means going the opposite direction. And so when you hear sacrifice, and Coach was saying that, and then Forcella said something on the that he was talking about, and it was around that. He said, sometimes when people think sacrifice, they have a negative connotation to it. He said, what I want you to think about with sacrifice is I want you to think about the investment that you're making.
Mm.
So when I hear you share the story of, hey, I missed the Super Bowl, that, hey, maybe that was a little bit of a sacrifice, but it was an investment, a reallocation of that time to invest into yourself. And I think that's where a lot of people need to understand that it's not a negative thing that we're making the sacrifice. It's that I'm reallocating this time to invest into what is important to me so I can have those incremental gains.